Deep in the Venezuelan Gran Sabana, hidden beneath the towering tepuis, lies a world few humans have ever seen. They are giant caves, so vast they defy all imagination and comprehension. Subterranean spaces where nature has built unique and mysterious ecosystems over millions of years. One of the most impressive is known as Sima Martel, located in the Sarisariñama tepui in Bolívar state. This is no ordinary cave. It is a massive vertical sinkhole that descends hundreds of meters, with an opening so wide it looks like a hole opened directly into the heart of the planet. If you want to continue discovering the most incredible secrets of nature and the most hidden places on the planet, subscribe and hit the bell to not miss any expedition. What makes Sima Martel extraordinary is not just its size, but also the material it is found in, quartzitic rock. This type of rock is extremely hard and resistant, and normally does not allow the formation of such large caves. The existence of such monumental caverns in this type of rock has baffled geologists and speleologists for decades. The mouth of the sinkhole opens like a huge crater, with walls that fall vertically for almost 250 meters deep, and only specialized teams with experience in extreme speleology have managed to descend to its bottom. Upon reaching the base, scientists found something unexpected: complete forests inside the cavern, with trees reaching several meters in height, and a micro-ecosystem completely isolated from the outside. These plants and animals have evolved over thousands or millions of years in an environment where sunlight barely reaches, adapting to unique conditions of humidity, temperature, and soil. What for us is an inhospitable underground world, for these species is a perfectly balanced and self-sufficient home. The formation of these caverns is directly linked to the tepuis, those tabletop mountains that look like islands of rock floating above the land. Unlike karstic caves formed in limestone by chemical dissolution processes, quartzite caverns develop through an extremely slow and complex process, which can take millions of years. Some of the largest caverns in the Gran Sabana exceed 20 kilometers in length, and it is still unknown how far they truly extend. One of them, known as Imawari Yuta, which in the Pemon language means House of the Gods, is considered one of the most extensive and deepest in the world. Unlike typical caves, these subterranean spaces are not entirely narrow or dark. Many of their galleries are tall and wide, some large enough that a small plane could land inside if the floor were flat. Internal waterfalls, underground rivers, lakes, and giant stalagmites form otherworldly landscapes, creating an environment that seems straight out of a fantasy movie, but is 100% real. The greatest astonishment for scientists is found not only in the geology of these caverns, but in the life that inhabits them. These subterranean ecosystems are completely independent of the outside. Some organisms have lost pigmentation from living in total darkness. Others have developed extraordinary senses to navigate without light. Hundreds of species of insects, spiders, crustaceans, and other animals have been recorded that exist nowhere else on the planet. The fauna and flora of these caverns constitute what biologists call a troglobiotic ecosystem, that is, a world that has evolved completely isolated in extreme conditions. Beyond living beings, the minerals inside these caverns also present unique characteristics. Quartz formations and crystals that look like natural sculptures have been molded over millions of years by extremely slow geological processes. In some cases, these structures grow and change shape, as if they had a life cycle of their own, generating a subterranean landscape that seems alive and dynamic. Access to these caverns is extremely difficult. They are located in remote regions, without roads or paths, and only scientists with experience in extreme exploration can reach them. The logistics of each expedition is complex. Teams must descend hundreds of meters with specialized ropes, cross underground rivers, and endure long periods of isolation. Furthermore, the permits to explore these areas are strict, as they are fragile ecosystems that could suffer irreparable damage if people without adequate preparation enter. Each finding made in these caverns offers key information for science. It allows geologists to study the formation of caves in quartzitic rock, biologists to understand how life can adapt to extreme conditions, and ecologists to analyze the interaction of isolated species that have evolved without influence from the outside world. Even for experienced speleologists, these explorations represent extraordinary physical and mental challenges, and the level of discoveries can be so impactful that many describe the experience as leaving you speechless. The study of these ecosystems also has broader implications. Some of the species and microorganisms found in these caverns possess characteristics that could be useful for medicine, biotechnology, or agriculture. Life in extreme conditions, adapted to darkness and the lack of usual nutrients, offers models that could be applied in studies of resistance, genetic adaptation, and new types of bioproducts. The fascinating thing about these caverns is that, although several have already been scientifically explored, many remain completely unknown. The Gran Sabana and the Venezuelan tepuis contain countless unmapped caverns, which means that every expedition has the potential to reveal ecosystems, geological formations, and species that science has never documented. This unknown and mysterious nature contributes to the fascination they generate among researchers, as each finding can change the understanding of how caverns form and how life is maintained in extreme conditions. Furthermore, these caverns are not only impressive because of what they contain, but also because of their geological history. Formed millions of years ago, they represent a living testimony of natural processes that occurred long before humans appeared in the region. Each stalactite, stalagmite, crystal, and rock wall tells a story about the evolution of the landscape and the climate, allowing scientists to reconstruct the geological history of South America and understand how these unique ecosystems have evolved over time. Comment Cueva if you believe there are still caverns waiting to be discovered in Venezuela that could change science forever. One of the most impressive findings is the existence of complete isolated ecosystems. Unlike other subterranean systems that partially depend on light or organic matter from the surface, some of these caverns harbor autonomous biological communities, which function as natural laboratories of independent evolution. These communities include insects, spiders, crustaceans, and even amphibians that never leave the darkness and show surprising adaptations, such as loss of pigmentation, extremely sensitive eyes, or even absence of eyes, developing other senses to orient themselves. In addition to the fauna, the flora also plays a prominent role. In areas where light minimally penetrates, some plant species have developed unique adaptations for partial photosynthesis, while at the bottom of the sinkholes, forests that appear normal in appearance hide roots and fungi that act in symbiosis with the rock, extracting minerals not found in surface ecosystems. This interaction between flora, fauna, and geology turns these caverns into true living laboratories where the resilience and extreme adaptation of living beings are studied. Regarding microorganisms, the Venezuelan caverns have revealed species completely unknown to science. Some of these microorganisms live in conditions of constant humidity and total darkness, feeding on minerals or minimal organic remains. Scientists are particularly interested in these microbes because they could offer clues about how life might exist on other planets. In apparently hostile environments, such as Mars or moons of Jupiter and Saturn. The extreme isolation of these caverns has also allowed some species to evolve independently for millions of years. This means that certain spiders, beetles, or crustaceans inside Sima Martel or Imawari Yuta have no close relatives on the surface, and their adaptations offer biologists invaluable information about evolution driven by geographical and ecological isolation. On the other hand, geological exploration has revealed that the formation of these caverns in quartzitic rock does not follow the traditional patterns of chemical erosion observed in limestone. Instead, the sinkholes and galleries have been formed along natural fractures, underground currents, and mechanical disintegration processes. An extremely slow phenomenon that can take millions of years. Each expedition that descends inside allows the structure of these caverns to be studied and an understanding of how they remain stable despite their colossal size. Researchers have also documented underground lakes and internal waterfalls, some of them with crystalline waters with very particular chemical compositions, which has led to studying the interaction between water, minerals, and the organisms that inhabit them. These underground bodies of water act as microhabitats, sustaining unique aquatic communities that depend exclusively on nutrients transported by internal currents or by the decomposition of organic matter. Beyond the life that inhabits these caverns, recent studies have shown that some species have extremely slow life cycles, such as insects that can live several years before reproducing, or microorganisms that grow at practically imperceptible rates to the human eye. This slowness reflects the stable and isolated conditions of their environment, where the lack of predators and the scarcity of resources have forced life to adapt efficiently and sustainably. The archaeological and anthropological aspect is also fascinating. Although most of the quartzitic caverns in Venezuela remain isolated, there have been indications that some sinkholes may have been known by indigenous peoples for centuries, mainly as ceremonial places or temporary refuges. However, the modern scientific documentation of these spaces began only a few decades ago, so the human history of these caverns remains a mystery in many cases. Another recent discovery that has surprised the scientific community is the existence of their own microclimates within each cavern. As researchers descend from the mouth to the bottom, the temperature, humidity, and air composition change drastically, creating zones with unique characteristics. These microclimates allow different species to concentrate in very specific areas, avoiding direct competition and favoring biological diversity in relatively small spaces. The conservation of these caverns is a critical issue. Each expedition requires extreme precautions to avoid contaminating the sensitive ecosystems. Even a small disturbance could completely alter the dynamics of an underground forest or an isolated lake. For this reason, access is strictly regulated and limited to highly qualified scientists. The protection of these spaces is important not only for science, but also for the preservation of global biodiversity, as some species could disappear before they are even known to humanity. In terms of scientific relevance, the study of the giant caverns of Venezuela has allowed a better understanding of the biology of extremophile organisms, those that live in conditions that would be lethal for most known species. Furthermore, the models of independent ecosystems offer information about the sustainability of closed environments, useful for space research and the creation of self-sufficient habitats on other planets. Finally, each expedition has made it clear that these caverns are not just underground spaces, but complete, dynamic, and surprising worlds, where the interaction between geology, biology, and chemistry creates landscapes that defy any imagination. From the forests at the bottom of Sima Martel to the lakes and waterfalls of Imawari, Utah, every corner offers a unique opportunity for discovery. For scientists, the simple act of descending into these sinkholes is an extraordinary physical and mental challenge. The vertical walls, constant humidity, total darkness, and the need to rely on specialized equipment make each expedition an extreme challenge. And yet, the reward is incomparable. Documenting unique species, studying unusual geological processes, and exploring a world that, until a few years ago, remained completely hidden. Share this video with someone who loves adventure and the mysteries of nature, so they too will be impressed with these hidden worlds.